Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about section 3.4. We're going to spend a couple days on this, and this is the beginning of our conversation about slope. So let's talk a little bit about slope, just sort of what it is, what it looks like. We're going to start with just graphs. Slope is always the ratio, which means it's going to be a fraction of rise over run. Now, you probably have heard about this before. We're going to go over it again because I know slope can be a tricky subject for a lot of people, so I want to make sure we're all really feeling confident and that we're on the same page about slope. We use a special letter for slope. So we use the letter M for slope because slope is how we move on a graph, so we use letter M. And slope tells us how to connect points on a graph. So if I'm standing on one point, how do I move or connect to the next one? If I give you a graph like this and I say, please find me the slope, then you know you're going to need to write a fraction. The top number of the fraction is what's called the rise. Rise means pick either one of these points. I'm going to choose to start here. To get to the other points, I need to go down 2 spaces. So I would write -2 as my rise because I went down 2 spaces. Then, to get to the other point, I would also need to look at the run. Run means how far left or right do you need to go. In this problem, to get to this point, I would need to go right 2 spaces as well. So my run would be +2. My last step is always going to be to reduce that number. So -2 divided by 2 reduces to -1, and that would be my slope. When we're looking at graphs, we have 4 ways to classify the slope. So we're going to draw little pictures for each of these so you can see what these slopes would look like on a graph. So on a graph, a positive slope is going to go uphill when you start at the left and you go to the right. We always read the graph from left to right. A negative slope is going to go downhill, again, when you start at the left and you read towards the right. An undefined slope would be a vertical line. You may remember when we talked about Vuxhoy that a vertical line has an undefined slope, and a 0 slope is a horizontal line. You may remember when we talked about Vuxhoy that a horizontal line has a 0 slope. So that's another reason that Vuxhoy helps us, not just with making a graph, but with knowing about the slope of a graph. Let's practice finding some slopes. So again, whenever I give you a graph, the way you're going to find the slopes are by looking at rise over run. So in the first example, you can start at either point. Let's start at this side this time. To get to the other point, I would go down 2 spaces. So my rise would be -2. Now I would also have to go left 4 spaces. Because I'm going left, it would also be negative. And -2/4 reduces to +1/2. Now you could use your calculator to reduce that fraction, or you could just know that 2/4 is 1/2. For problem number 2, we can start at either end. I'm going to start over here. To get to the other point, I'm going to go up 4 spaces, so that would be a positive, over, and then I'm going to go right 2 spaces, so that would be a positive, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. And in the last picture, again, you can start at either end. It doesn't matter. I'm going to start here. I would go up 2 spaces, so my rise would be 2. And my run would be left 4 spaces, so it would be a -4, which reduces to -1/2. And you can just put the negative by either the top or the bottom, or sort of at the beginning of the fraction. It doesn't really matter where you put the negative. All right, now this is sort of how you get slope from a graph, but there's more to the story. So slope can actually help us describe things in the real world, and to do that, we use units with our slopes. So since slope is a ratio, the units will always describe what's called a rate. So think about that as like your rate of speed, like miles per hour, or meters per second. Or it could be your rate of pay, so it could be dollars per hour. All of these units are fractions because slope is a fraction. When you want to find the units for the slope, you're still going to look at the rise divided by the run. So if we look at problem number 4, first we're going to start with just the numbers. So I can start at either end, it doesn't matter. If I start here, I would need to go up 3 spaces to get to the other point. And the units for my rise would be the units on the vertical side of the graph, which are meters. Now my run would be right 1 space, and the units for my run would be hours, which is the horizontal units of the graph. You'll notice that they go the same way as the arrows, so it can kind of help you line things up. Now 3 divided by 1 could be simplified to 3 meters per hour. Problem number 5, we can start at either end. I'm going to start here. We're going to rise 2 over, and it's 2 what? Centimeters squared. There we go. And we're going to run left 1 space, so -1 seconds. 2 divided by -1 simplifies to -2 centimeters squared per second. We're going to go ahead and stop there, and we will talk about this in class tomorrow. If you have any questions, please feel free to bring them with you or to rewind the video and watch it again. Thank you so much for watching and taking notes, and I will see you guys tomorrow for some more practice.